Hi, good evening. This is video log entry 180, I believe, and it's about 6:30 p.m. CST. Um, I took a few days off from this because I have been just pretty much killing time because I don't know, things have been slow, and as usual, of course, because I haven't been really that motivated to do anything proactive or productive with my time. So, um, but I've been looking at options for school and all that, and I think I was thinking about just doing distance learning because I personally, I think I learn better online because I have less pressure to get things done as fast as possible. Or just it's mainly the classroom settings. It's not really the deadline, just the classroom settings. I mean, it's a multitude of factors. It's mainly just the amount of stimuli. I think my brain tends to just get overstimulated with crowds and too much information to process. And I also have some form of anxiety, quote unquote performance anxiety, and having to work in groups can be hard. And I also don't really, I don't know, I've never been team oriented, so I also uh, I've just never been that team oriented when it comes to group projects and whatnot. And also that doesn't mean that I won't be doing that when I do online stuff, but it's less likely to happen because it's hard to use breakout rooms and whatnot. And it just seems like it's I think teachers are typically less incentivized to do that, but who am I to know? But yeah, so I think I may just do. I mean, I've talked about college and all that, and it depends. Like, it really depends on what my options are. I mean, like, there are a lot of close schools here that have good programs for physics and math and also computer science or anything STEM oriented. So it depends. I mean, I'm, I think I may still apply to them, even though it's like, what, 75 for an application fee for all of them. So I have the money for it and the funding. It's just like, yeah, I think I'm just mainly, I am still going to apply and then probably just do the essay and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, just something to look forward to, and at least I won't be completely lost. And now, just because I am getting rehired for the park district, I'll have something to look forward to, and I can say that, hey, at least I have a good reason why I'm here, as opposed to just working and going back home and killing all of my time without really any direction in mind. So that's a positive thing to look at as well. So, yeah, I mean, I said I was going to talk to my old manager, which I did, and he said he wants me to come back on April 3rd, so I'll be doing that next month. And I'm still going to be looking for jobs because, I don't know, I just want to cover the bases, and maybe I'm kind of overdoing it with the job applications, especially since I already have something that is pretty easy and it pays pretty well. So, and not only that, I mean, I'm still going to be open to other options, and I already applied to a bunch of the Chicago Park District positions that are seasonal, and then I have the other park position, which is supposed to be year round, and then I also had some dock attendant positions that I was looking at, and dishwasher positions, and a couple other stuff that are, again, quote unquote, more introverted and less interaction with customers and people and patrons and whatnot. So, and also I'm still looking at event assistance positions and all that. So that's also something I am keeping my eye out for, but I don't want to, like, I don't know. Every time I push too hard for something, it usually ends out not really. I don't know. Most things tend to fall in my lap when I'm not necessarily looking for it. So I just from experience. So unless I really have something I'm really committed to that I want, which is school, obviously, and continue my education. But anything aside from that, I just need money for the time being. It's nothing crazy, and if it's something I can tolerate, then I think I may just stick with something I'm familiar with. But we'll see. We'll see. I tend to change my mind a lot. I tend to get indecisive about things. So yep. I don't know. I decided to make a video log today. I just thought I'd give an update because I'm bored and I don't really have a lot going on, and I'm thinking about games again. Again, like I said, I get indecisive about things, so I may play. I don't know. I was thinking about like playing Cyberpunk 2077 or Elden Ring or any kind of open world RPG. Maybe I'll try Guild Wars 2 again if I have something to do on there, but I only did winter berry hunting, but I want to try something different that's open world and I can just turn off my brain and explore world somewhere without, yeah. Um, yeah, for the most part. I mean, like, I still think about like RTS games and whatnot, and that tends to float in the back of my head, and I don't really have a good reason for it. If I'm gonna be, I don't know, like again, like it's good for executive function and actually conditioning your brain to plan through things and actually creating goals within a system, like in the real world. So it's a low stakes instance in which you can get your brain to start thinking that way as opposed to doing it in the real world. And I think that's a pretty good introduction to planning ahead. And also I don't know, it depends on the kind of game, but thinking on your feet without any kind of big repercussions. And it's a good introduction. It's a subtle introduction without any stakes, like I mentioned. So I do think about that sometimes, but I wouldn't know. I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to tell. But I think I may do that just for different ways of. I mean, there are a lot of. I think games for now. I mean, like of course, if I want to do strategy, I can always do chess. And my dad also liked Go a lot, and we used to play a little bit. I actually wasn't bad at Go or chess or any strategy game. I tend to have issues with losing and failure, and I tend to put a lot of weight on my intelligence, but I also tie my intelligence to my own learning speed, but also learning speed tends to kind of rely on a lot of other factors. It's about processing information. You may have a form of ADHD or ADD. You may have some form of, there's something that I heard called sluggish cognitive tempo, which then I think after a few years they changed it to cognitive disengagement syndrome, and that's basically it's not it's I think it's partially an attention thing, but in a different way or different dimension of attention. Whereas ADHD and ADD tend to they tend to get distracted by stimuli, but cognitive disengagement syndrome is more kind of in its own head, kind of like I think people would associate it to the absent-minded professor, and that's understandable because I tend to do that, but I'm not sure if I wouldn't diagnose myself with cognitive disengagement syndrome unless if I talk to a professional about that, but I don't think I do because I can get myself to engage with my external environment if I really wanted to. And I've actually, surprisingly, I've taken assessments, executive functioning assessments with my psychologist back in Williamsburg, and I had a lower than average processing speed, but I kind of think it's just my attention deficit or cognitive disengagement syndrome of some sorts, but I wouldn't know. But also, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. But I also I tend to I process information fast when I'm actually engaged in something, and that's not always the case. If it's something that seems like a menial task, I'm most likely not going to engage my mind into it. And now, I don't know. I may possibly have a working memory disorder of some sort, or maybe it's smaller than most people's. But I'm not sure about that either. I've never had issues with mental math, so I mean that takes a lot of working memory. So that kind of depends. Yeah, I think it's probably like an attention deficit hyperactive disorder (ADD). But I also was tested with ADHD, and they said that I passed, or I wasn't positive with the test, so I don't know. I really don't know. That could be its own story for a video. So, yeah. I don't know why I'm talking about that. Why was I talking about that? Oh, yeah, I guess I was talking about, like, different forms of processing and being able to enhance executive function. I tend to think about that a lot. But, yeah, that's possibly another reason why I want to get into long distance learning, is just because of that possibility, and it'll just make things easier, and I don't have to worry about the anxiety of having to kind of keep up with the pace of my peers and all that. So it's just something for somebody like me that would be more prone to being anxious in an environment like that. and that creating a not so great effect to my learning process in those environments. So I don't know. Um, yeah, yeah. What else was I thinking about? Games, I guess. Did I say games? Yeah, I said I was going to play. I want to play RTSs. So um, we'll see. We'll see. Also, I heard that depression also messes with processing speed, and I can see that especially with me. Like I try some days I like if I'm actually in a normal baseline, quote unquote normal baseline for the average human, then yeah, I process information pretty quickly. It's just I think happiness and energy levels obviously partake in processing information and all that good jazz and whatnot. So, and actually, there are also a lot of other things. Is actually practicing and training your brain too. That enhances learning speed by just making it go through those functions more than not. And I have been a victim to brain rot, and that also supposedly affects processing speed. And when I was younger, I was also susceptible to brain rot as well because I slept through all my classes and I didn't mentally engage my mind in my classes because um, I could get away with it. So that was the only reason I did that. It's because I could get away with it. Um, and in college, I did that too for a while. I didn't actually sleep. I just didn't show up. Um, so yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of factors, and yeah. So I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot, I guess, as usual. And I'm not sure what kind of RTS games I want to start off with if I end out doing that, but I'm definitely going to try more laxed 3D open world games. I want to try, like I said, probably Cyberpunk 2077 and Elden Ring, and then for RTS, I may try out like StarCraft 2 or I don't care about League of Legends, but StarCraft 2 seems kind of fun. Um, and then if I decide not to play a strategy game online or digital strategy game, I'd probably do chess and go. Um, yeah. So I'm just thinking about other domains too. I mean, like the thing is, like if you're going to school for like physics, math, potentially computer science, like all that doesn't really enhance executive functioning really, just because of the pace of the class, and two because those are considered to be more creative endeavors nowadays. Like you're not doing any kind of intricate computation, and of course there are different ways you can use strategy so your learning process. People use spaced repetition, and there are different ways you can read a textbook, right? The biggest one I know of is like if you're looking at a chapter, usually read the headlines and then maybe the first paragraph for each section, and then you go back and then read into detail of each, so you have a general idea or general mapping in your head before you get into the detail. Which actually, I think that's how my brain works. Is I usually have it. That's like I think for most, I'm not sure. I'm just saying from experience, but my head tends to, when it's studying a new subject that it's not familiar with, it kind of looks at the surface level before it goes deeper, so it can have a general idea on how they connect. Just because of the fact that the brain likes, it tends to remember things easier when it has, when it's more memorable, obviously. So there's like another word, but so creating connections obviously makes it easier for you to remember things through using your logical faculties, and yeah. So I mean, yeah, that's probably the best way. But anyways, yeah, there are different ways you can impose strategy. Obviously, like anything else, like you can do it anywhere, but that's still a slow strategy. It's not like fast-paced strategy and thinking on your feet. And like I said before, obviously low stakes video games help out with you being able to think faster and more intuitively without necessarily having to understand all of the building blocks for a particular situation. Yeah. And, there's a real world, but at the same time, I don't know, like, I could do that too, honestly. But it starts. I think if I translate from video games to then the real world, I remember when I was playing a lot of video games when I was younger, I was more comfortable about thinking on my feet in the real world as well. So it translated nicely to that, and my confidence was a lot higher, and my brain was functioning pretty well for the most part. And it didn't seem like I had a processing disorder. I could at least process information quickly and respond in the average amount of time most people would. So yeah, but that was when I wasn't really depressed and I actually had things going on in my life and I was actually using my brain as opposed to letting it sit in a puddle of mush and not do anything with it, right? So yeah, I mean, again, the brain is so complicated. I don't know why I'm talking about all this, but I felt like it. Um, so yeah, a lot of things on my plate, and exercising. I walk every day, and I've been trying to maintain a routine, but it's been difficult for me. And I say it's been difficult, but it's just me being lazy, honestly, and procrastinating on a lot of things, and it's whatever, honestly. Um, it's not like it's actually destroying my life or anything. So yeah. Yep. I don't know what else what else is there to talk about. I don't know. I guess I could talk about my internet endeavors since I haven't been doing anything. Again, like I said, I haven't been really doing anything, but I've been chronically on the internet, and I've been kind of looking at Reckful and Destiny stuff and his debates and whatnot, and they also seem like interesting people. And I was also looking at like the situation that Reckful was in when he was in his like really deep depression to the point where he committed suicide and all that, and that was very unfortunate. And also supposedly he had some kind of brain thing going on. I'm not sure how, like, his brain structure did not necessarily it wasn't necessarily compatible with SSRI, so he wasn't on medication. So he actually lived without any kind of medicine. God, I'm blanking out. Intervention, I guess, would be a right way to say that. Yeah, so I mean, like, I was thinking about that. I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I've tried doing that, and I should at least, again, I'm very indecisive. I'm going to a psychiatrist and I'm going to a primary care physician just to see what I can do. And he was also, I think he was born in a rich family as well. So I don't think he ever necessarily had any financial strife or any kind of strife in life, even probably not academically, because I think he was intellectually gifted. So yeah, I think he spent most of his life playing video games to add some kind of challenge to his life, and he kind of built his whole purpose around video games, and I think that was a huge factor to his depression. And I think most people would associate happiness to purpose, and I think Destiny mentioned that, and that is also true as well. And I think that's a huge factor that actually kept him in the trenches, was him having trouble actually finding a purpose, and then him having enough drive to maintain a routine to work towards a purpose. And you'd have to be really consistent for that, and it takes a lot of energy in comparison to the average person who has the average amount of quote unquote happiness, or whatever you want to call it, and whatnot. So I'm sure it was really difficult for him to get up every day and actually do things beyond his typical maintenance, quote unquote maintenance routine, like showering and diet and like exercise and all that. And I don't know, like, what he was thinking when he committed suicide. I don't know what was going through his head. Now I'm sure him being chronically online and being around people and seeing the mean things that people can say, especially with such a big fan base and how people know him, I'm sure he was affected by a lot of things there, and that didn't really probably help out for his situation. And yeah, I don't know, it was probably a lot of things that caused him to do that. And it was kind of sad to see. He seemed like a good guy. And I honestly, there wasn't really anything that I learned from it other than the fact that it's best just not to stagnate when you're like that, because it gets worse if you don't move yourself upwards or go up the ladder when it comes to your happiness. because you really had to put effort to get out of there, a lot, and SSRIs really do assist with that, or any kind of medicine intervention, I guess. Yeah, yeah, but also he didn't really seem that emotionally intelligent. I think that was another factor that really got him in the dumps, was because it didn't seem like he was. Maybe he did practice CBT and being positive. I'm sure he talked to Dr. K, which is some online psychiatrist. I think it was also a psychologist as therapist as well. And I think I'm not sure if he introduced him to the idea of CBT, but I think he broke it down for him again, and I think that helped him for a while. But you also have to be consistent with that, and these thought loops are easy to get into, especially if that's where you're accustomed to, and especially if you have some form of OCD where you're obsessed with your thoughts. And I get obsessed with my own thoughts, and I sometimes wonder if I have OCD. That really magnifies negative or pessimistic thoughts as well. So, yeah, I don't know. Depression is really complicated, and it obviously varies from person to person and whatnot, but you could just tell he wasn't really that emotionally intelligent. Maybe he had the capacity to do so, but he wasn't willing to put in the work because he always distracted himself from his own mind, which is fair enough. I mean, I could understand that, and I can only speak from my own experience with my own thoughts. Maybe his thoughts were much worse than mine about the world or whatever may have been going on in his head. I can't really say much about it. Yeah. So honestly, I think another factor is actually being able to develop your emotional intelligence, and he did not have much emotional intelligence. You could just tell because of how stimulus abuse, right? He distracted himself. He was always around his friends. He was always playing video games. He always had something he was doing. Like I think he was helping out with making a video game to help out with people who were depressed like him, to make them feel like they have a place in the world. I guess he was also depressed because maybe he didn't feel like he belonged to the world too, and he felt lonely and all that stuff. And that does happen with people like that. So yeah, I mean, it's a multitude of factors, but yeah, I just can't say much about like his situation. So yep. It's all interesting though. And I remember I used to be in a major depressive disorder like him, and I don't even know how I got myself out of it, other than the fact that I was very persistent, and I also spent more. I kind of cut off all of the stimulus abuse as well. I told myself I was going to quit doing it, and I was going to deal with whatever was in my head, no matter how painful it was to deal with. And it was painful for a while, actually. But I also got through that initial hump of pain, and I got through the other side, and I saw the light in the tunnel. And there was somebody calling me about a barista position over at a cafe, so I may check that out. Another thing to be optimistic about. And yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say much. I can only speak from my experience and from what other people have mentioned about it, but I also haven't done enough research on it either. So yeah. It's tough though. It's really tough for people like that. Yep. I don't know what else to say really. I got distracted from that, and then that was pretty much the end of my stream of thoughts that came from looking at what I was looking at earlier. And I don't know. Like I don't even. Destiny is like his own thing because they have a lot of drama pertaining to that and the stuff that he's done. And I don't know. I don't really get myself into internet drama. And I again, like, I'm not opinionated enough, so I kind of look at things and more neutrally as opposed to being passionate about it. So it would be really boring for me to actually cover something like that. So I just don't cover stuff like that, and I don't really have a good reason because I don't seem interested in it. I mean, I think it's funny and hysterical looking at it from the outside looking in. But aside from that, I just don't care. And it's a good way to kill your time, I guess. And I like studying humans. I think humans are interesting creatures. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And I had my initial assumptions of Destiny, but I have a lot more respect for him. Just, okay, not some of the stuff that he's done with his quote-unquote orbiters, but again, he's a very intelligent guy, and I used to think that he would always uh, argue with people that were less intelligent than him or just less knowledgeable, or just like he'd choose like certain areas within politics where you're most likely to run into your not so uh, smart guy. But I mean, I think it's more than that. He's just, I think he's just an extremely intelligent guy, and he's most likely not going to run into somebody like him. Partially because of his autistic characteristics, and I think he took a test on his psychological makeup, and he did get he definitely has some form of narcissistic personality disorder. I think they call that an NPD, and supposedly psychopathic, which is fair. I mean, I think you would actually have to inherit those traits with the shit that he's done and how he's treated people around him, and also just how, like, I would say, I feel like part of why he's driven is because of people with autism tend to be more hyper focused on one thing, and they could just focus on one thing for a long time. And also, like, I think it's inspiring that he's able to be so outspoken, because I tend to be the opposite. I'm not an extremely outspoken person, and I think it's partially a confidence issue. I usually, if I were more well read and I understood the world more, then I'd probably be a little bit more outspoken, but less emotional and passionate about it in comparison to him. So, yeah. And also, you can tell his drive not only comes from his autism, but supposedly his narcissistic traits make him more driven, because they have something to prove to themselves. I think people who have narcissistic personality disorder want to prove things to themselves to feed their identity, right? Whether it's, because he's a smart guy, he's most likely going to want to feed his identity for being smart. So he does a lot of debates to crush people, and he's also extremely confident, and that's also part of like his narcissistic traits and whatnot. And yeah, so I wish I had as much confidence as him. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I tend to stumble over my words, and it takes me a lot to actually explain things to people, and they probably get bored before I even finish my own thoughts. So, yeah. Yep. I don't know. I think that's it. I don't know what else to talk about. I may just spend some more time being chronically online while I wait to get a job. I mean, like, I have other projects to do, but I don't know. I should probably do that too. I don't want to rot my brain away. And then I'll probably play some games and whatnot. And try to plan I want to plan my summer out some more. I'm thinking about doing more sports just to try them out, just to feel more physically confident, and maybe, I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. I have too much that I don't know. I tend to overthink things, and there are just so many options in the city, and I don't know what to do. Like, I guess I'm also going to a career fair, because why not? And I have nothing better to do, so that's going to be on the 26th of March. And we'll see how this summer goes. I'm trying to be as optimistic as possible. Yeah. Yep. Anyways, I think that's it. Bye.